doing my Rachel Maddow thing, where she looks down and then somebody in her ear says, and then she looks up.
So she acts busy.
Hey, everybody. Good to have you with us. Hey, welcome to the Common Good Podcast. It is Tuesday. Did not look. June 6th. Yes. I should have known that. Today's one of those days in history that has a lot of things. Do you know this about June 6th?
I know it's my parents' anniversary.
Oh, I think Bobby Kennedy was assassinated on this day. I think the attack on Normandy, where a bunch of teenagers were coerced into war, that happened on this day. So probably a few other things. Happy anniversary to your parents, of course.
Yeah.
Hey, and if June 6th is the meaningful day to any of you, let us know. And it's not a meaningful day to me at all. I wouldn't have known that had I not seen a couple of news headlines today. The June 6th is one of those days, but I don't keep up. By the way, I'm Doug Pagitt from Minneapolis. The weather is summery and wonderful. Rob, I don't keep Rob from somewhere outside of Springdale, Arkansas, or in Springdale, Arkansas.
Somewhere outside of Fayetteville, Arkansas.
Somewhere outside of Fayetteville, which also should be the name of an album. Somewhere outside of Fayetteville.
Yeah,
I'll work on
not
that.
Bad.
I'll work on that song. I don't pay a lot of attention to World War II history. Do you? Are you one of those cats? Are you a World War II history buff?
I mean, I like a good Saving Private Ryan movie, but I enjoyed I enjoyed the Band of Brothers but
the fictional tales, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, a little bit.
Yeah.
But I'm not a buff in any way, shape, or form. I'm not buff in any way, shape, or form.
Yeah. Not a buff, not buff.
Yeah.
Well, happy, I don't know, Remembrance Day to the people who do keep track of those things. Doesn't seem like short of September 11th, we have any of those currently in the generation of us-ish, right? There's not really a day. Maybe January 6th for the, the soft Civil War. That's it's maybe brewing. Well, okay. Happy Politics Day, Rob. Some things happening.
Big day.
If you follow the news streams that I follow, it's like the build up to March Madness for basketball fans. That Donald Trump is going to be indicted sometime this week. All the indications. Now, people that are into this, here's why they say so: because his lawyers went and met at the Justice Department yesterday with the special counsel and team, and rumors are out that an indictment is coming. And Trump's lawyers, probably pro bono lawyers, most likely working pro bono.
They don't know that they're working pro bono.
No, it's gonna be a big write-off here in a bit, because the way you don't pay taxes is you just have a lot of business losses. So Trump's like, hey, I'm gonna help you on your taxes. I'm gonna stiff you, and then you can write that off and not pay your taxes like I didn't pay mine. Those lawyers are out saying things like, oh, Trump is not going to be indicted. Because here's what you do if you're messaging, and I would do it too if I were messaging on their side. You start to make, there's no way they're going to indict, so that when Trump is indicted, people feel more outraged, right? Because now people are just like, TikTok, hey, are we, after we get done with, World War II Remembrance Day, can we get on to indicting the failed presidential candidate? And it's just become like, when is it happening, not if it's happening. So all indications seem to be it could be as early as this week, which means it'll probably be late August. Right, if you're in the world that I'm in. What is it that you're hearing about such things?
Yeah, that's exactly that. I saw some reports last night that they could come as early as Thursday. And you're totally right about the approach that Trump's team is taking, really kind of downplaying even the idea of an indictment, because then it seems like it makes it that the evidence is not nearly as strong as it probably is. Number of
definitely is.
I've also heard that it sounds like there's a the so the grand jury is back. The federal grand jury is back in D.C., listening to evidence presented by Jack Smith and his team. And can I just say again, for the record, um, you just look at a picture of Jack Smith, and um, man, this is a guy. I do not want this person investigating my life.
Well,
Like, it
are
just,
you more intimidated by the Unabomber looking one where he has that beard and he looks like
oh
he's got a
yeah,
wild eye and he was living in the
yeah. Oh,
woods, or the one
oh,
where he's clean shaven and looks like a Josh Holly stand-in, little real straight up guy with,
both,
yeah,
both. But the one with it seems like he's wearing some kind of European like robe for,
totally
because he was a prosecutor at the Hague.
at the Hague.
Yeah. So, anyways,
Hmm.
so apparently I heard as well, and I don't know the veracity of this. I assume it's true, but well, who knows? Um, apparently, there's a second federal grand jury that has convened in Florida.
Yeah,
That could, and speculation is that this grand jury is focused in on the people around Donald Trump, and their actions in covering up the stolen classified documents and obstruction of justice. Now, typically, what we see with this kind of thing, and this is what makes this a little bit different. You think back to all of the presidential scandals that you can think. You think back to Watergate, and certainly Nixon had to resign, but there was, G. Gordon Liddy and a whole bunch of other people that ended up going to prison as a result of that. You think about Iran Contra, and Ollie North goes to prison because of that. Um, you just
Scooter Libby with
Scooter
in the
Libby,
bushes. Uh-huh.
yeah, yes, and it seems like, and certainly Trump
And
has
then in the
had
Obama years, who?
none,
Oh, that's right.
none,
There were
yeah,
no
zero,
special prosecutors, no scan. Huh.
yeah, yeah.
Interesting.
Hmm.
Okay.
But when you think about that, like, and certainly there have been people around Trump who have gone to prison, but it hasn't felt like there is a central fall guy, like,
Oh, there's one.
right. This is the point I'm getting to. It doesn't feel like there's okay, Trump should have known that this was happening, but he's got some plausible deniability, like I'll like you with Ronald Reagan and Iran Contra. Like, okay, Reagan should have known. It's like, Ollie
Mhm.
North was acting on what he thought Reagan wanted, but there's a little bit of like a hint of like, okay, maybe he's acting independently.
Yeah. Little lack of culpability. Sure, can make that
Yeah,
argument.
there's none of that with Trump.
No,
There's
because when
none
they,
of it.
dude,
None of it.
when they pierced the lawyer client privilege, when when Jack and others brought the case to the judges and said, "We need to bring Corcoran, Trump's lawyer, in here, and you need to compel him to tell us because we have proof that he conspired with his lawyer to commit a crime."
Yeah.
And first the judge and then the DC federal appeals panel, both approved the breaching of the client
Stunning.
lawyer privilege under the auspices that they can do this if there's evidence that a crime was committed. Is the evidence that a crime was committed? Like, that was the game right there. So his lawyer could be the one who's also culpable and just sang like a bird. And apparently,
Yeah.
they have these transcripts from his, and he just was in a car just talking, telling everything. They have Trump so on the hook for this thing.
Yes. Yep.
It's both on the obstruction and on taking these documents. And here's why that's happening, because what Trump is now saying is, what I did is not a crime. It's the thing he does all the time, right?
Yes.
I didn't do
Yes.
anything. It wasn't a crime.
Yeah.
It's just it's
Yeah.
it's a little bit
Yeah.
boring, actually, that this is the
Yeah.
same old thing that he just does every single time. But man,
Yeah.
this time he is in some serious, serious trouble.
Yeah.
And again, we've made comment here before. This is a man who has a criminal case. He's a criminal indicted uh, uh, felon for something he did before he was in office. This thing that's coming about the files and the documents is after he was out of office, and there's 2 charges pending for while he was in office. Before, during, and after, he has cases pending against him. It is simply amazing. And that's not even the ones that would come from the Mueller report, where they said, well, had he not been the president of the United States, we would have recommended prosecuting him on obstruction of justice. But because he's a
Yes.
sitting president, we realized that we can't recommend that. It's just simply stunning, the stack of issues that are up against
Yeah.
him. Doesn't mean 32% of Republicans aren't going to vote for him. It doesn't mean 24% of Americans aren't going to be voting for him. They certainly will. Because, say what you want about this country, we do have a love affair with our famous criminals. There's a lot of famous criminals. I mean, just think about Billy the Kid and,
Yeah.
all of it,
Oh,
Scarface. Like, we
Al
love this.
Capone. Al Capone is what jumped to mind for me as soon as you said that.
Yeah,
I pictured Geraldo Rivera entering Al Capone's empty mines and
totally. We
empty.
love that stuff in America, the outlaw deal. So there's a whole sector that's going to turn all of this stuff into, I mean, that's literally what they've done with the January 6th crowd.
Yeah.
Truly
Yeah.
what they've done.
Yep.
They've turned them into it. By the way, did you see the article of the QAnon shaman who doesn't
Yes.
want to use that title anymore?
I sent you. Did you watch the video that I sent you, Doug? Of the
I did
QAnon
not.
shaman dressed like Rex Kwon Do from Napoleon Dynamite.
No,
Oh my goodness. Oh, Doug.
really.
Oh, I feel like this is one of those. I took Whimsy to art camp this morning. She's spending most of the summer in week-long camps, and this is art camp where she's making animal art things this week, and having a great time doing it. And I was thinking as I was driving back, I was thinking about the podcast, and I had the thought, we haven't played the game where I show a video that Doug hasn't seen and we get his reaction in real time. We haven't done that in a while.
That would have been a good one.
So the QAnon shaman has made a video. He made a video right after he got out of jail. He's dressed not in the horns and shirtless. Instead, he's dressed like Rex from Rex Kwon Do, if you might remember that from Napoleon Dynamite.
Yes. Okay. Maybe I did see
And
this.
he's got, I think, a white suit and American tie flag on, and he is not repentant at all. He completely doubles
Yeah.
down on his belief that January 6th was justified, that the election was stolen, that Donald Trump should be president. Doubles down on his mix. Remember, he's the one who prayed the blasphemous prayer in the from the dais at the Senate chamber. Doubles down on his blasphemous Christian nationalism and mixing his politics with his religious beliefs. And it is quite a video. Yeah, it is
Yeah,
really
he's
something.
he's out and pitching his wares, man. He's
Yep.
just out as a political prisoner, and interestingly, pitching his view of Jesus as a master teacher who traveled around consuming psychedelic mushrooms.
Yeah.
So there's he's got a whole other Christian narrative as well. So it's really gonna mix up the pot for a lot of
Well,
people.
as they say, the blind squirrel.
You're like, sure,
I'm just going to leave
he's
that
got
there.
the insurrection wrong, but if you really read the text,
He might be onto
it's
something with his Jesus theories.
all right. Well, Gwen in the on Facebook is asking, what charge is Trump guilty of? Great question. Okay, depends on which of the 4 cases one wants to talk about. The one that he's being charged for is hush money payments that was in a legal scam designed to defraud the federal government and to defraud the state of New York. So that's the one. And then there is the documents case where he kept documents that he shouldn't have had. So it's going to be espionage, but then also obstruction of justice is going to be that one. And then there's interfering with an election in Georgia. That one's coming because he called from the Oval Office, called people who have legal responsibilities in Georgia and pressured them to violate the law. And then there's the insurrection. We haven't even gotten to the ginning up a seditious action in the insurrection. So those are the kinds of things, all of which would normally just be the end of someone. I think
Yeah, and I would.
wistfully back to 1999 when George W. Bush wanted to become the president. I was living in Texas at the time, and he was the governor of Texas. And word broke that in his 20s he had been pulled over and given a DUI citation. And they went into full meltdown mode trying to save his candidacy because there
Oh,
was a
that was
DUI. It
yeah, that was
was,
like a day or two. That was like a day or two before election day. And I would just, in addition to the four um, indictments and pending indictments that you mentioned, Doug, I would also just remind Gwen that um, Donald Trump has also been found liable by a jury of his peers in a civil case of sexual assault as well as defamation.
mhm.
And the reason that he was not charged criminally with those is because of the statute of limitations has passed. But he was found liable by a jury of his
Mhm.
peers for
Mhm.
really horrible behavior towards Jean Carroll.
Yeah. And the only reason that the rape charge he was not found guilty on was the technicality of what counts as rape in the state of
Yep.
New York. There are
Yep.
certain conditions that have to be in place of the
Yeah.
kind of violation.
Yeah.
So that's why it
Eh,
wasn't it wasn't found guilty on the rape charge, but on the sexual assault charge, he was.
yeah.
Well, hey, our first live comment from Twitch. By the way, we do put this
Oh, we're on
program
Twitch
out on
now.
Twitch, and some of the lesser known and less respectable social media sites, Twitter,
Yeah.
we're on there as well. Facebook, multiple pages. So you could be on any of those places, but our primary place is YouTube. So SMOJ420Q. Thanks for your comment about this being a fake show. Not a fake show. This is real. It's even a real background. That's not even a fake background
Yeah,
right
that's
there.
right. Me too.
It's real background.
Me too.
Uh,
Hey, Doug, can
but
I?
it could be better if you went over to YouTube. So head over to
Yeah.
YouTube. Look at
Yeah.
the Vote
Oh,
Common Good channel over
yeah.
there. You get extra bonuses. Jim knows. Jim knows. You get extra bonuses over there. So head on over.
Doug, I occasionally I like to bring a little professional wrestling talk into our podcast on occasion. Um, did you see the amazing story this week? Um, so Congresswoman Lauren Boebert,
Hmm.
um, her mother gave birth to her out of wedlock and has um, long claimed that Lauren Boebert's father uh, is professional wrestler Stan Lane. Now,
Really?
Stan Lane might not be a name that's familiar to everybody. It's not. It's
Well,
not like a household name like Hulk Hogan or The Rock or
Jesse the Body
whoever.
Ventura,
Jesse, thank you,
my
Minnesotan.
former
Jesse the Body
governor.
Ventura.
God
But
love
Stan
us.
Lane in the 80s was a part of,
Hmm.
some of the most famous tag
Sure.
teams in professional wrestling, the Midnight Express in particular. And apparently he had there was a paternity suit against him in the state of Florida that caused him so that he could not even enter the state of Florida lest he risk being arrested. Um, so Lauren Boebert's mom has long claimed that Stan Lane was Lauren Boebert's father,
Hmm.
and this rumor has persisted, and And Lauren Boebert has even claimed it publicly a couple of times. I think there's some Facebook posts that have been dug up where she is claiming that Stan Lane was her father. Apparently, this week the news was announced that earlier in the month of May, um, they finally got the paternity tests, and as it turns out, Stan Lane is not her father.
Really?
Yeah, and so it
Does
just
she
was
know?
one.
Did they get to the bottom of it though? Have they figured
No,
out
I
the
don't think so.
family
But
background?
apparently he has um, accepted the apology of Lauren Boebert
Hmm.
and Lauren Boebert's mother for decades of telling a falsehood.
Yeah, being
Uh,
wrong about that.
yeah. So, but one of those weird things. So we don't know who Lauren Boebert's father is. Not that it's any of our business, but it is not.
Look, it's the
It is
makings
not Stan Lane
of a great
of the
Star
Midnight
trilogy.
Express.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's
I
not
mean,
him.
wouldn't
So
that have been something?
now we're on to the next
Would
episode.
that have been something? Like that
It's
really would have been amazing.
it's one of the great stories, that one would build a story of people in the stars about.
Yeah.
Like not knowing who your dad is, that's pretty classic.
Yeah.
That's pretty classic. Look, Lauren Boebert is not my favorite politician. I don't think Lauren
No.
Boebert should be an elected member of Congress. We're going to do all we can to support her moving on to other things, as she is. We like to
Mm.
remind all of us, a human being and therefore a beloved child of God, light of the world, salt of the earth, but not every light of the world should be a congressperson from the great state of Colorado. So she should take her dim little light and let it shine someplace else. But she's she's made it. I mean,
Yeah.
look, she she came from a tough situation. She married herself in a tough situation. She had to raise kids in a tough situation. I would just love to be able to cheer Lauren Boebert on for the things she's accomplished in her life and having to overcome some real painful difficulties. Like lots of people do, but she's kind of now if she would use all of that to not create wackadoodleness
Yeah.
and stirring up things and turning, citizen against citizen and all the other nonsense that goes on, yeah, we can talk about that. But,
Yeah.
congratulations to her on figuring it out. And you know, and her and Marjorie Taylor Greene, also, they're a couple peas in a pod. They're sort of the unwoke sisters, of Congress. If you don't even know who we're talking about, my deepest apologies for talking about these people. And congratulations on not knowing who Lauren Boebert and Marjorie Taylor Greene are.
Oh.
But both of them have been in tough situations right now themselves. They
Yeah.
both had their marriages end while they've been in Congress for these last couple of years, and a lot of personal, struggle, a lot of accusations about affairs that they're having with people, and they're both,
And pipe bombs.
statedly Christian women that have high moral standards by their own by their own, acclamation, and
Yeah.
so look, things are it's been hard on them. There's just a human side to politics that you should always remember. Things are tough, for people when and they still have to live their lives. And their lives are really, really difficult. They both come from very difficult situations. Congratulations on achieving something and being, achieving your goals. Time to move on and stop with the harmful I don't know if wackadoodle is even a phrase one can use anymore, but the wackadoodleness of all of this is
Yeah.
just too much.
Yeah. So
But
speaking again of
all the
all
best
the
to her.
best. Oh, for sure. So Lauren Boebert was also caught lying this week about her participation in voting for or voting against the raising the debt ceiling,
Hmm.
and participating in the um, wackadoodle
Ooh,
kabuki theater,
boy, when I
as
hear
you
someone
might
else
say.
say it, it really sounds
Uh, yeah. So uh, Doug, do you have any thoughts? What's your thought on? I've seen kind of point and counterpoint on this. Does the does Kevin McCarthy come out of this debt ceiling debacle, um, weaker or stronger? Um,
I think it
it,
comes out different. I think his circumstance and situation was very precarious going into this on one side. He was seemingly held hostage by the burn it all down crowd, right? The ones who were like, if we go into default, we go into default. The government's been the problem anyway. We got to raise
yep,
this thing and build something
yep,
new and all the rest of it. Really held hostage by that crowd. And they were saying it flat out.
yeah,
After all of this, those people have been weakened, but now he's in a other spot where he's now not trusted by those people, so he's now precarious on the other side. It's like watching a gymnast on the balance beam, and you think they're going to fall one way, and then they're going to maybe fall the other way. So I think that's where
yeah.
he is. He's now maybe going to fall the other way. Whether he can get out of this speakership with anything even remotely uh, that he would be proud of, I think his standards are very low, frankly, of what he would be proud of. He is not like a Paul Ryan. He is not like a Newt Gingrich. He's not like some of these others in the Republican lineage, a Boehner even, who had a thing that they were really committed to, like they had something they were holding on to that they wanted. He doesn't have a thing he wants. That's been the thing about Kevin McCarthy all along.
He
Everyone
wanted
has
to be
said it.
speaker.
Yeah, that was it. That's what he wanted. He just, I mean, meaning he didn't have a philosophy or he didn't have
Yeah,
a big project he was moving. I mean, I don't know why the Republicans aren't still screaming that he doesn't bring an end to Obamacare, because my goodness gracious, I remember lots of years of that being the big
yep,
concern. But there is not a thing. And now the debt ceiling has passed, so it's not even like fiscal responsibility can be his thing, because he totally got rickrolled. I mean, the negotiators on the administration side must have just gone out with their fancy little martini glasses the night that bill was passed and just smirked and
yeah,
said, "Wow, that was
yeah.
a
So
big scare and not even hard work." I mean, they did it on the side while they were doing something else. Like, oh, we have that meeting with Kevin today and his crowd. Okay, let's go in there and just get everything we want. I think the
yeah,
person who comes out on top of all that is Biden, frankly.
oh, for
Biden
sure.
just comes out being able to say, hey, always willing to negotiate. If you don't have control of a house of Congress, you can't
Yeah,
do everything. So you got to give a little to get a little. We gave a little and got everything we wanted.
yeah.
Um,
Oh yeah,
so
yeah.
it's
So I wonder, does this? I I think this could break one of two ways. Here's how I think it might break. Um, this either uh, the rubber band stretches, and does it snap back to its
mm,
original size, in the sense that Kevin McCarthy um, really put a lot of stress on his relationship with the extreme,
hmm
Freedom Caucus, um, burn it down wing of his party. Um, does that does that since he caused that pressure to happen, does it now snap back and
mm,
he does things to appease them and bring them back into the fold? Or does the rubber band stretch and it snaps? And Kevin McCarthy realizes that he can get stuff done without them. And maybe he feels no longer held hostage, held back by them. Um, where, hey, even working with moderate Democrats, like, because, a lot of progressive Democrats in the House didn't vote for this debt ceiling situation either, for a variety of reasons. So it was the type of thing that, didn't have a lot of support on either end of the
mm,
political spectrum, but had support in the middle. Does does this bring about a new era in McCarthy's speakership, where he is no longer beholden to
mm,
the Freedom Caucus, which gave him the speakership, and now
mhm.
he's willing to work with Hakeem Jeffries and get stuff passed and just say,
Well,
screw it.
okay. I think here's what happened. I think that as the debt crisis was looming, they were polling, they were going back home talking to constituents. I think Republicans realized nobody in the Republican voting bloc wanted the government to default.
Of course not.
So what happened, I think, was they realized, oh, this we're not getting any bonus points for this at all. Like there's no win in this. Even if we reduce spending on something at a federal level, look, nobody cares about federal spending, really. Ultimately, it's always a ploy towards something else. So what I think happened was they realized fairly quickly, okay, we're not going to fight hard over this. So they came out, gave a little press conference behind some microphones and said, this is a horrible thing. No one should vote for it. Right. And then they didn't. So they can go back and say, I didn't vote. I didn't vote for it. But they weren't going to fight. Now, the question will become, can Republicans find anything that they care about, that their voters care about, that they can make a big stink on? And I think they're having a very hard time. Literally, I think they're
Drag
having a hard
shows.
time doing it. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
What's it going to be? You're going to just keep picking on trans kids? Are you just going to keep picking on Target and Bud
Yeah.
Light? And you're just going to
Well,
go on your DeSantis like weirdo wackadoodle wokeness tour?
yeah.
And
I
wackadoodle
think
wokeness tour is a pretty good phrase,
wackadoodle
by the way.
wokeness tour. Yeah, well, that's,
2023.
the when we are when you make the album of Somewhere Outside of Fayetteville, um, you can go on the wackadoodle wokeness tour to promote that album. Um, I
Sounds like a
think,
kid's
I
band.
I mean, the winning it. I don't know. I think the issue that Republicans will push and will um, I think giving them the best chance to win that is not one of these culture war issues is the issue of crime. Um, I think
Okay.
ironically enough.
Yeah.
So I recently, a few weeks ago, I had the opportunity I was at an event with Democratic supporters here in the state of Arkansas, and I spent some time talking with a public defender who works in Central Arkansas, but not like in Little Rock. He works kind of outside in more rural areas, and so I asked him. I said, what's a typical like? Because I've never really talked to a public defender before. I said, like, what's a typical like caseload for you?
Hmm.
Like how many cases are you working at a time? Because I was just curious, and he said pre-COVID, um, he said there's six of us in the office. He said pre-COVID, um, we each had about 100 cases
At a time.
at a time that they were working. That was typical caseload. He said now we each have 600 cases.
That's a
And
lot.
I said,
Eh,
what? Oh, well, like what in the world? And he talked about how he thinks that, the pandemic caused some kind of, you know, break in folks, and crime in all aspects, in all facets, is surging around the country. And this is not like a, back the blue Law and Order. And so,
Yeah.
was kind of chatting with him about like what we could do to make a difference. And one of his three solutions was demilitarize the police, which um, his solution, this is a public defender, his solution to crime in America is demilitarize the police,
Yeah.
which
So
is
didn't have an
fantastic.
answer. Yeah.
No, I mean, no, because no, he was tying like he thinks that there is, a real connection between
Sure.
um,
Yeah.
the militarized police approach to, to crime in America. So, anyways, so I say all of that to say, I think that there is an opportunity for Republicans to run um, on crime, tapping into, this is it's gonna tie in with all of the kind of the racist dog whistles that we see from Republicans all the time. They're gonna be able to talk about law and order and it. So, anyways, I feel like
Hmm.
that could be a winning issue for them, if they're able to pivot to that. I mean, your point of like, what are they gonna run? Or like,
Yep.
what do they
People don't.
have?
Yeah.
Yeah, like
And
they don't have
unfortunately,
the debt.
people don't
They
even
don't have
care
the debt.
about that
They don't have,
stuff enough. Yeah.
yeah, they don't have congressional victories because Joe Biden has completely outdone Kevin McCarthy.
Yeah.
Um, they don't have legislative victories. All they have is either the cultural stuff or, I think a crime message. So it's going to be interesting to see. But we're also, I mean, we're going to have to wade through all of the different voices of people
Hmm.
who are going to, make these arguments as the Republican field for president, gets a little bit bigger
Expands.
today.
Yeah. Yeah. Because I think the one thing that they will run against, I think they took a lesson from Democrats over the last 5 years, and that was make the president the problem.
Hmm.
So what they've decided to do is to make Biden the problem. So it's always comes back to the Biden administration this, the Biden administration that, and that's where they're trying to lay the blame. Maybe it's a workable strategy. I don't know. They don't have another option, right? It's just get Biden out. So that will probably work well in a presidential year, which is coming. And as you say, today, Chris Christie is going to announce his candidacy in just among the most like, I don't care what Donald Trump writes in all caps over on the, the sub Twitter level Truth social network, but he's going to, lose his mind when Chris Christie comes out announcing his candidacy today, as you were mentioning a week or two ago that you thought that was coming. And Christie's primary thing is going to be Donald Trump as a problem. And Chris
Yeah.
Christie worked harder than anybody to support Trump, so much so
Yeah.
that he got COVID and nearly died because he literally put his life on the line for the man, Chris Christie. I mean, this guy just couldn't be worse in my mind. I mean, but my wife is like, you need to work out your relationship with Chris Christie because he doesn't know you, and you despise him as a public politician in a way
Yeah.
that's not right and helpful. But this guy, he's in. Mike Pence is filed his paperwork to run, so Mike Pence is going to be in. Governor from New Hampshire is out. The guy from North Dakota, I can't remember if the governor from North Dakota, well, I can't remember his name, and I can't remember if he's in or out, but that one's. But I'll tell you,
or maybe that's South Dakota.
I think that's South Dakota. I know that's South Dakota. Yeah, I know. I'm
Governor Chris Sununu of New Hampshire is out. Apparently.
He's out. Yeah, that's what I was saying. Yeah, Sununu's out, which is disappointing. I thought he could be a real breath of fresh air in that world, but
yeah, there's some speculation that he is open to being courted by the No Labels effort to run a unification ticket with a Republican and a Democrat running together. So we'll see. So we got Chris Christie. I mean, you're spot on, Doug, with this. We have short memories, right? We do. We have short memories here in America. We, like Ted Lasso might say, be a goldfish, and we have short memories. Are our memories that short? Because I seem to remember being with my son Calvin at the airport in Northwest Arkansas in a hangar with a bunch of MAGA people, and I seem to remember Donald Trump's plane landing, and I'm sure I remember Chris Christie going to the microphone and introducing the next president of the United States, Donald Trump. And I seem to remember, like, Chris Christie was the first kind of mainstream politician to get on board with Trump. I seem to remember him chairing the transition committee and doing debate prep, even in 2020, helping Donald Trump prepare to debate Joe Biden.
Election day. Liz Cheney level of support for the man. I mean, just Adam Kissinger.
I mean, even beyond
all in.
Yeah, even beyond Liz Cheney's support for the man. I mean, so the fact that Chris Christie's running is not a surprise, because maybe he has a sense, like, if his case was, okay, Trump is too damaged, but I'm going to be the heir apparent to Trump, and I'm going to ride on that legacy. But that's not how he's coming in. He is coming in as the anti-Trump candidate.
Guy. Yeah, the anti-Trump guy. Well,
And
because
maybe
he's
all of this comes down to, real
January
bitterness
6th. January
that
6th. He's got a
well,
pivot point.
I was gonna go earlier than that.
Oh,
I think all of this comes down to, in 2015 when Trump entered the race, he took I mean, again in the professional wrestling world, this might be called gimmick infringement.
oh,
Like somebody's
hmm,
got a gimmick, they've got a
right,
thing, and then somebody else comes in and does the same
right.
thing.
Don't do a
Not
pile
cool.
driver or a scissor kick off the third, off the top rope. That's my trick.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
and I mean, Chris Christie had a gimmick. The straight talking, loudmouth bully from the Northeast who doesn't quite fit
right.
in traditional Republican categories,
Or an
but
airplane seat.
he's gonna say what he really thinks,
Right.
and consequences be damned.
Yeah.
And then Donald Trump comes and enters the race and takes his
Yeah.
gimmick, and
And Chris
so
Christie looks like a liar. Yeah, I know.
yeah,
Con
so
man.
maybe this. So I
Hmm,
listen.
fair
In
enough.
former days, when I was a Republican and a um, much more loyal to the Republican Party than I am today, as a person who has virtually no party loyalty whatsoever. Um, I used to like Chris Christie.
Hmm.
Um, I there was I liked his moderate policies in New Jersey. I liked his different style. I now have a much different opinion of him. Um, Much of that comes from kind of moving beyond wanting that confrontational approach to politics, but he has shown himself to be a complete and utter hypocrite.
Mm-hmm.
But it's going to be fun to see him in this race.
Well, hey, look, it's going to get spicy now because Nikki Haley's been in for a while. She's started to push back pretty hard on both DeSantis and Trump, and all that. DeSantis is saying we've got to quit losing, so they're all going after Trump. I mean, look, the granted, this happens in politics that people who served in administration start to get an inkling that they should sit in the, in the captain's seat rather than in the co-pilot seat. But it's not a good look when you were the president and then the people who were your vice president, your debate prep, your ambassador to the UN, your chosen candidate for governor of Florida want to run after you have announced.
Yeah,
Right? This was the mistake Trump made. The
yeah,
mistake Trump made by getting in early
yep,
was now all these people's statements are we're running against him. Had he had any kind of political impulse and
yeah,
waited and stepped in later, instead of thinking that was going to protect him from federal indictment, then it would have he could have changed this narrative and said none of these people are good enough. You all knew I was coming in and I came in. But now the statement is Trump is in, and I don't think he should be. He's the presumptive nominee, and I
yeah,
don't think he should be. So now these people get to
yeah,
take the high road. But I think they're all in simply for this
yeah,
reason, that Trump will be in a circumstance that he cannot run.
yeah,
I've had this fever dream that all the cases are going to come to a head because Trump is going to be told you'll get a plea deal, but it's going to mean you can never hold public office again. They're going to bundle a bunch of things together, and that's going to be the way out for everybody. Trump can't hold public. And then there's going to be a big gaping hole. And then now it's between Chris Christie, and when Chris Christie sits around and looks at this gaggle of people and thinks one of these people is going to get the nomination and have a chance to run against Biden, I'm not sitting
yeah,
that one out.
yeah,
This is among my last chances for something like this. So yeah, he's had presidential ambitions from you know the start of it all, when he was a whatever it was, a federal prosecutor. He was thinking
yeah,
I should really be the president of the United States. He's been politically hungry for a very long time, and that was not a joke about his hunger level. But he has been politically hungry for a very long time, and he's in. And now Pence is. So it's going to get crowded. A couple other people. Somebody put in the chat here. Somebody, I don't even know who that is. Do you know who Doug Burgum is?
no,
Doug Burgum is announcing that. Well, Kathy Lee Holly. Tell us who that is. I don't know. I don't know who that is. But Cornel West is also in, Rob.
Yeah,
Third party candidate. Marianne Williamson is in, third party candidate.
not third. No, no,
Oh no, she's running
Marianne
as a
is.
Democrat.
She's
Yeah,
running as a Democrat, as is
that's
RFK. So
is
listen, this is
RFK announced? Has he
yeah,
filed papers?
yeah,
Oh
yeah.
oh,
He's in.
that's
Yeah,
for reals.
yeah.
Okay,
So
I thought he was
when you
exploratory committee.
no, 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 no. So yeah, so Joe Biden has two primary challengers, Marianne Williamson and Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Um, Neither of which are, like, to your point of, Joe Biden's not facing, um, a political heavyweight. I mean, Jimmy Carter, when he was primaried in 1980, he was primaried by Teddy Kennedy,
Yeah,
a sitting senator. Like, come on, like that.
yeah,
Uh, Joe Biden's not being primaried by, at this point,
right.
um, super heavyweight candidates. Though I have a lot of affection for Marianne Williamson. Um, So entering into the race yesterday, shockingly, surprisingly, I did not. Doug Burgum is the governor of North Dakota, apparently.
Oh, that's
By
the
the
one.
way,
So he is in. Okay, yeah, that's when we were talking about whether he was going to be in or out. But now he's
yeah,
coming in.
yes. I've good luck to you, Doug.
Yeah, look, I've realized of the 50 governors, I can name only a few. I
Yeah,
just don't. I don't know my governors. I mean, I got DeSantis, I got Newsom, I got Walls.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
So Cornel West, Dr. Cornel West, announced yesterday in a video that he is also running for president.
yeah.
Um, so this is fascinating news. Cornel West, longtime Harvard professor and sociologist, and someone who's spoken out about poverty and civil rights, and has been a really compelling public figure for
Hmm.
decades now. Someone that a lot of us have a lot of affection for. Um, he was a active um, supporter of Bernie Sanders campaigns for president, and um, often campaigned with Bernie, and was a surrogate for him on news shows. Um, so Cornel West announced that he's running for president as a third party candidate. Um, I don't know, Doug. When I texted you this yesterday, I mean, what was your what are your thoughts about this?
Well, look, third parties just they're they
Well,
don't
let's
make
talk.
sense politically. So why
Yeah,
someone like him would want to pick this? I think what it does do for the voter's mind is give someone a sense that they could still vote, which we like people to do around here, um, and that they could vote for someone else. But look, he's not doing anybody any favors. When you walk into your polling booth and you have a choice of president, there will be 7 or 9 names on that list
oh,
in your
yes,
state. There
always.
are always third party candidates. There are a bunch of them. There's the Constitutional Party and the
Yeah,
People's Party and the Libertarian Party. And this stuff goes on all the time. So it's not serious as political space, but the degree to which there's a conversation frame set by famous people putting their name in to run for president, and the primaries are all the way through election day. Okay, yeah, he gets to make an argument for policies and for an approach of the government. And his statement was, which I read, and maybe you did too, but it's he cares about the things that um, the president should give greater level of attention to, social levels of issues and so on. I don't think Cornel West is saying I want to be the executive of the executive branch of the federal government. I don't think that that's really
it's
what's going on.
not
But there's a lot of
responsibilities he
people.
aspires to.
Here's the upside to something like this. I know a lot of people are only on the like it's going to split the vote, and then in places where it's going to be close, some people are going to go away. I think what it's going to do, if anything, is rather than taking someone who would be voting for one of the two mainstream candidates, maybe it's going to inspire,
Yeah,
0.5% of people who would have sat out in politics to get in, and then maybe half of that half of a percent are going to ultimately take it more seriously and realize
Yeah.
that your vote is an action that has outcome. It's not your personal statement
Yeah.
on your bio of your social media account. So it's really not virtue. Your vote is not virtue signaling to anyone. I mean, other than the fact that you might want to, you might be someone who says, "Oh, I voted for Jill Stein in 2016," which no one, even Jill Stein, wants to admit that
Yeah.
because that
And
that had
yeah,
some
listen,
consequence to it.
can I riff for a second on something that I
Sure.
that one of my political pet peeves is the idea that people are owed a vote. And um
Mhm.
listen, nobody nobody owns a seat.
Mhm.
It's not somebody's seat in Congress. It
Right.
like and no votes are owed to anybody.
Mhm.
It is the responsibility of every single candidate to go out and to make the case to as many people as possible why they deserve to hold that seat.
Yep.
And listen, I understand the political calculations that you might split the vote or something like that. But listen, it is not it is not Cornel West's responsibility to get Joe
Yeah.
Biden reelected president. It's
No.
Joe Biden's responsibility to get
Sure.
Joe Biden reelected
Sure.
president and his campaign team.
Great.
And if you cannot do that in the climate in which you've got a
Mhm.
Cornel West running for president, maybe you don't deserve to be president. So I hate the like blaming Jill Stein, blaming Ralph Nader, blame like no. It's the candidate's responsibility to go and make the case. And if you can't make the case of why you should be president instead of Cornel West, or you should be president Al Gore instead of Ralph Nader, or you should be president Hillary Clinton instead of Jill Stein, I'm sorry. Like that. No one. You are not a vote is like it's not a birthright that you deserve from people. Like it's your responsibility to make the case. So like I I am part of me is real happy that Cornel West is running for president because
Mhm.
he's absolutely the kind of person that I would love to get behind. And like in a different scenario, like this would be the kind of thing where I'd be trying to find out like how to get like someone close to Cornel West because I would be interested in helping out and doing everything I could to help this campaign.
But
However, but
as Peter Herman said, everyone I know has a big butt.
but Cornel West announced that he is running with. Thank you, Jim. I am 100% correct. Uh,
Not about this.
Cornel West announced that he's running for president with the People's Party. Now, listen, we're familiar with political parties. Um, there's the Libertarians,
Mhm.
there's the Green Party,
Mm.
the Constitutional Party. There's we've
Mhm.
had the Reform Party in the past. The
The
Forward
weed
Party
party.
is trying
What's the
to
weed party? What's
the
the
Weed
marijuana?
Party.
The
Yeah, there's
marijuana.
the Rent is Too Damn High Party. Remember that guy in New York? Um,
Rent is
so
too damn high party.
I mean, he's just so fantastic. That guy. You remember
All
that guy who was in
politics
the
are local,
governor's
and he's
debate?
literally like, "My rent is really high. I want to be
Yeah,
president."
yeah.
It's
His
like,
whole
heard you
camp.
get a
Nah, he was
free
running for
place
governor.
to stay. It includes
He was
public housing when you're the
He was
president.
running for governor of New York,
Oh
and
yeah, for the governor. Well, there's
he's a
public
great guy.
housing available to governors too. Yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of rules have public housing available to them.
Cornel West announced that he's running for president with the People's Party. If you've never heard of the People's Party, that's you are along with 99.9% of the American
Mhm.
public, um, and that might even be too low of a percentage.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, the People's Party is it came out as a result of someone who worked on Bernie Sanders' staff who got disillusioned with
Oh,
what was
really?
taking place within
Huh.
what was taking place within the Democratic Party, and
Huh.
decided to try to attempt to start a new political party. Um, that organizing has been taking place over the last few years. Um, I, I have seen up close third party organizing taking place, and I can say that the type of organizing that the People's Party is doing versus some like an organization like the Forward Party, which is not running a presidential campaign. The Forward Party is taking a completely different strategy. They will not have a presidential candidate in 2024. They're
And just
taking a
interrupt to Kimberly's question. What about Yang? Yang is behind the Forward Party, which is not putting
yeah,
forward a presidential candidate, but they're doing some other.
exactly. They're organizing local first and from the ground up, which I think is a much more effective way to go. Listen, what I
And
know about the
adorable, just adorable.
yeah,
Also,
um,
don't miss that.
what I know about the People's
Uh-huh.
Party, there are 50 states where you have to get on the ballot. In those 50 states, there's about 150 different rules of what it takes to get on the ballot. Um, to win the presidency, you have to, be on the ballot in enough states, win those states, enough states to, get enough electoral college votes. I have zero confidence in the People's Party's ability to get on the ballot in 5 states, let alone 50. Um, and so, I mean, this is not an organization that already has some kind of apparatus like the Libertarian
Right.
Party, or where Gary Johnson runs, and he's already on the ballot in most states, or they've already got organizations in all the states. Listen, I unless things have dramatically changed since I last paid attention, um, and I'm pretty sure they haven't.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, as much as I like Cornel West, and as much as I would love to have his voice in the conversation of presidential politics, um, this isn't going to be a real thing.
Now, here's how it could be a real thing. As somebody who's not a fan of third parties at presidential level, because the country doesn't want it, is what's clear. Been lots of tries. They don't exist anywhere in the country, right? They don't. So, the apparatus has been being built for my entire lifetime, and certainly aggressively the time that I've been paying attention to politics, which is 35 plus years. They still don't exist for any reasonable functionality. Okay, so, but if you wanted to have a party that was going to work, that wasn't the Republican Party or the Democratic Party or the variations of one of those, you got to get moving. So what Cornel West could be doing is saying, okay, with my name and reputation, I can attract a group of people. We're going to get on the ballot in 7 states. And then in 2028, we'll get on the ballot in 15 states. And then we'll have enough impetus going that we'll hit all the states by 2032. Oh my gosh, is that possible? Yeah, 2024, 2028, 2032. So by 2032, 12 years from now, we could build enough apparatus. Is he trying to be president now? No. Look, if the People's Party, God bless them all, chooses to get on the ballot in a dozen states, right? They want to take the Robb Ryerse challenge and outdo it on a dozen states. I would suggest they do that in the states that Republicans are going to win the presidential election. That's a great idea. Give a voice to all of the People Party-like supporters in those states. Or pick the states that you know a Democrat is going to win anyway. I think you're better off giving a voice to people who feel voiceless. Go to a place where people are like, everyone who's elected to office here is a Republican, and there's 30% of us who don't see that way at all, and we want an alternative. Or pick a super blue state. If you start screwing around in Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Georgia, Arizona, Texas, North Carolina, You start messing in those states and pulling away voters where the margins can be very slim or people are really trying to work towards something else, then you're just being unhelpful in the industry of what it means to have elected officials that are going to care about the common good. So that's my take. Have at it, third party people. Nothing wrong with it. But I think you're really selling a product that people don't want. And the only reason I say that is there aren't any. And if there was even and there's plenty of options, as you say, from the rent is too damn high party to the ones that are much more serious. There's not a
Yeah.
serious amount
Yeah.
of options for people.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, yeah. Yeah. And I mean, we could have a philosophical discussion about third parties because we see them differently. But
Oh, well, good. Let's
um,
let's do it. What else you got to
no,
do
no.
on a
I mean,
what else you got to do on a Tuesday?
I do have things to do today.
You think
Uh,
you think people want them? You mean that would be the philosophical
um,
disagreement?
I People want them. Um, yes, in so when you look at polling, the polling indicates that a majority of Americans would like third party option. Now, totally grant you the argument that they have a third party option. There's a third and a fourth and a fifth and a sixth, and there's a lot of options. Um, I th- I think that there's a lot of Americans that would like a viable and durable alternative to the Democratic and Republican parties. Um,
Okay,
and
totally different statement. I agree with
yeah,
that they think that there needs to be some other choice.
yeah,
I don't think anybody I know who's like, you know what my problem is? When I go in to vote, I feel like I only have two choices. I just
yeah,
want three. You know what all I
yeah,
want? Just three.
yeah,
You're not going to just want, nobody wants just, no, nobody feels the world is better if you have three instead of two choices. Because then you're
right,
going to say these three don't represent the whole idea that a political party cannot represent your viewpoint accurately is not solved by going from two to three. So, okay, back,
yeah,
back, back
yeah.
to it.
So I think that um, you know the approach that many have taken has been a top down approach. This is what the Reform Party attempted when Ross Perot capitalizing on his presidential runs, and then trying to create a political party after that. Um, and and now it appears that the People's Party is going to be taking the same approach with Cornel West, where you start you start with a central figure and build from the top down. Um, that approach fails, has consistently failed. The only approach that's worked in American history is when the Republican Party was started, and it began organizing in states. And 12 years after it began organizing in states, um, Abraham Lincoln was elected president. And it was a 12-year effort of building and organizing and growing that ultimately led to Abraham Lincoln becoming president, and there being a new party on the scene that didn't that wasn't. So I think, uh, of all of the efforts that are out there, I honestly think that what the Forward Party is doing with focusing in on local races, um, city council, state representative, mayor's races, those kinds of things, focusing in on those and trying to build from the bottom up, I think is the most likely to succeed. Now, it's still a long shot because the system is the people who make the rules are the people in power, and they make the rules to benefit themselves, and it's super complicated across the, like, in every state, there are multiple different jurisdictions. It's
Mhm.
difficult to do this organizing work. I think the best alternative, the best opportunity for a durable and viable alternative to the Republican Democratic parties is probably the Forward Party and and I say that because I think the approach they're taking is the long-term approach that'll work. I think the trying to run a flashy presidential candidate and build a party out around that has proven to fail.
Yeah, I mean, I'll just say that, like in state politics where I am, in Minnesota, there's been multiple third parties that have tried to grow and build and start with legislators and maybe even get a governor. I mean, Governor Jesse the Body Ventura was one of those.
Yeah,
And the idea is that you reach a certain level of viability, and then people get comfortable with it. This is, the pre-electricity uh, history that you're speaking of with Lincoln and others, that you get to a point where there's enough people who know and recognize in a few small places, and it comes together. That's what they tried. And over, when those things reach any level of viability, people don't do the work and don't want to do the work, and they collapse and they fall apart. And then at the
yeah,
federal level and the state level, once you are elected, and anybody who's elected as an independent, say Bernie Sanders, not a Democrat, an independent, right? He then has to caucus with someone, right? He's going to either be with the what. So even if you ended up with third parties, now presidential level is different, and I've got a solution to all of this that I'll hold off for another 15 seconds and let the anticipation build about what we do to solve this dilemma that you have. Once you become a member of Congress or of your state assembly or legislature, you then
yeah.
have to pick which one of the sides you're going to caucus with. So even then, what is accomplished by this third party that's not also accomplished by being someone who holds those same views and then technically within a party? And if you don't want to do the actual party work, so you want to be, like Kirsten Sinema or something, and say, I'm just not going to do the party work, I'm just going to be an independent, then go ahead and just be an independent candidate, and you don't need the apparatus of a party. I'm just saying that all the things that go into a party, all the organizing, all the funding, all the training, the things a political party does, people just over and over in America have said we don't want to do that work. Now, is that different than a pollster saying, do you want more choices when it comes to your vote? Of course. That's why we like those pop machines, or maybe where you're from, soda machines that have the digital screen on them, where you just are like, I don't have 7 choices. I can mix and match my own. Of course, that's what we all say we want. We want that about everything. But
But
that's not the same thing
yeah.
as I want I want a third political party. But here's, Rob, what I think the answer could be. And that is that the presidency becomes a nonpartisan position once you're elected.
Mm.
Now, I think there shouldn't be reelections. I think we pick our time, 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, whatever the number is. You never run for reelection. So you got your
Mhm.
5 year. I think five's a good number. 60 months. Maybe we go 72. Maybe we go 56 months. Don't have to do calendar years, whatever. But then once you're elected, you then are freed from political party obligations. Your only responsibility is to the American people. You're no longer part of it. And your job as the executive branch is not to be beholden. The thing that drives me crazy is presidents running for reelection. I wish they wouldn't. I think it's just bad for the American psyche. And even more so at the end of a second term, which, the previous president, didn't get to do, uh, that you're still out stumping. Like by day, I'm for all of America. And then in the afternoon, you're out there, saying this person would be a real hazard. And then once they're elected, you shake their hand and give them a hug and welcome them into the office. I just think we need to protect the presidency from partisan politics. I don't know that that would help all of the issues, but it at least gives us something that we vote for that is not simply party affiliations. So
Yeah.
I think there's a way to do something that could
Yes.
be not above politics, 'cause politics is a very good thing, but
Yep.
above partisanship and party
Yeah.
loyalty. So
Yeah.
basically the person becomes nonpartisan as president. I think there's a real
Yep.
future for something like that.
Yep.
That could be that that could be interesting. And then you put rules in place about stuff like that, right? Once you're the president, we already have those. Like unless you're Donald Trump, um, you follow the rules, and that is you don't campaign from the Oval Office. You don't use the White House as the backdrop for your campaign events. Like you separate that when you're running for
Yes.
reelection. So just get rid of
Which,
reelection altogether. Let's just
yeah.
stop that.
Yep.
And if you can't get it done in 5 years or 4 years, then okay.
Yep.
But
Yep.
boy, wouldn't it take I mean, would it take some pressure off? Yes. Would it take all the pressure off? No, but just enough. I certainly think it
Yep.
could be
Yeah.
done. But is the answer from 2 parties to 3, or 52 parties, and then everybody has to cluster into one of 2 groups again? It's just like, what problem are we solving here? And I think the American people over and over with third parties have said, we don't. But look, I'm willing to have my mind changed. And I thought 25 years ago, I truly did believe in a state that was pushing hard for multiple parties. When I ran for the state legislature here in
Yeah.
Minnesota and didn't even get the nomination, I like to say I was like Hillary Clinton in 2008, less like Hillary Clinton in 2016. I didn't even get the nomination. I'm the Bernie Sanders of Minnesota legislature.
Yeah. As am I. I'm an architect.
I found my old pamphlet, and it was "Standing Tall for Minnesota" was my slogan, because I'm tall. I'm 6'7", and a lot of people don't know that. And when we're only internet friends, and then I meet them, happened again last week. They're like, "Wow, I just didn't think you were that tall." I'm like, "Wow, I didn't think you were that small." But standing tall for Minnesota, running with an indie-Democratic spirit. I created a word: an independent, democratic, Republican spirit. Because independents have good ideas, Democrats have good ideas, Republicans back then had good ideas. Since now I don't know that they do. But in 2008, an indie-Democratic spirit was the sort of, right, that's kind of multi-party and sort of, right, like if there was a third party, you'd get it. I was trying to grab onto that sensibility that I had, for sure. But now, after 25 years of watching political parties try to start, people don't want them. I mean, let's be serious. They might want more choices. They want to make us, when I was a kid, we call them a suicide when you were at the pop machine in Little League, and you'd put a squirt from every one of them in there. Like you were really risking your drinking by mixing them together. That's what we want, but we don't want to actually build political parties. It feels like you were going to say something.
No.
All right. Hey, good to see Casey Franklin on here. By the way, there are times when I'll say things like, "Hey, when I talk to my Trump supporting Republican friends," Casey's one of those. We text. I'm not breaking any friendship rules here, Casey. Casey and I text back and forth kind of all day, just a series of important things and nonsense. And I take his input very seriously, though. So nice to see you here, Casey. Anybody else? Anything else we should talk about, Rob?
Yeah, no, I think. Are we gonna go? Are we gonna go live breaking news when indictments get handed down?
Oh,
and
yeah, 24-hour around the clock coverage. Yeah, you're gonna break out a bottle of that whiskey again. We're gonna put party hats on. And
that's great.
No, I honestly don't know if it happens this week. I don't know how I'll feel about it. Like the other times when Trump has been indicted or bad things have happened, I don't know if I feel celebratory because law and order and justice is alive and well in America,
or if there's sadness because this is required.
Yeah, because it shouldn't.
I'm not mad.
We shouldn't have been put in this. Not mad. I'm just sad. You don't make me mad anymore. I'm just sad.
Yeah. Doug, have you watched Shiny Happy People on Amazon Prime?
No, Shiny Happy People. No.
Yeah, it is a documentary 4-part documentary about the Duggar family, Springdale's own.
That's why. Yeah.
And their connection to Bill Gothard and the Institute of Basic Life Principles and the influence of that on conservative Christianity. The 4th episode deals very directly with the engagement of this group and their strategy to get involved in politics and electoral politics in particular. I think it's something you ought to watch, and we ought to talk about it. And
Really? Okay.
our friend Kristen Dumais is in it. Maybe we could get Kristen to come on and talk about it a bit, particularly the political aspect of things.
Hmm.
It's super interesting. So, yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. If it's got some enduring national level of interest, I'll look at it. That whole, you know how I am about reality television.
Yeah.
And I can't get I just can't do it. I can't watch.
Yeah. No,
I've stopped
this
watching
is
sports for the same reason. I think somehow it's just reality television. It's just made by producers.
yeah. This is a highly recommended 4-part documentary. Yeah.
Well, I'll be on it.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, extra bonus minutes today, friends. And we're not even charging you for that. That's just a freebie. Those
Yeah.
are free minutes. Don't have to pay for those. But if you did want to contribute to Vote Common Good, you do that over at votecommongood.com. Or Jim was in the super chat. Hey, remember when we'd see those super chats by Jim on YouTube and it would come up and say
Yeah.
$1.99 super chat?
$1.99 super chats.
Well, I didn't know this, but super chat is our channel has this capacity, our Vote Common Good channel on YouTube, where people can make a donation through YouTube to this, and then their comments are boosted up because they've made a $2 donation, or you can make a. So Jim, all this time we were calling you Super Chat Jim, $1.99 Super Chat, didn't even know what it was. Thanks for teaching us that, Jim, and for making any comments. But look, so over at YouTube, everything is just better over there. For any way you're watching this, it's just better, including an easier way for you to boost your comments. It doesn't make us put them on the screen here any faster, but in the chat over there on YouTube. So if you're not on our YouTube channel yet, go over there. And if you're not just generally on YouTube, boy, it's just there's a lot of good stuff on there, Rob.
You're
I
missing
don't know
out
if
on a
I don't know if
college
you've looked
education.
around, but the programming is unlimited. There's a lot.
You have
of
a
things.
lot of choices.
There it is. A lot of it's like the third party of politics over at YouTube. All right. Hey, tomorrow, have a great conversation with the bishop of the Washington Diocese of the Episcopal Church, which includes the National Cathedral, the bishop, the Right Reverend Mary Ann Buddy. And she's the author of a book, How We Learn to Be Brave, and be talking with her. So, if you want to class it up a little bit, join us tomorrow at the same time this one started, with the bishop of the Episcopal Church and author of a great new book. And then Thursday, astrophysicist Paul Wallace. So get your astrophysicist mind on and join us on Thursday. So, all right, good full week of common goodery and programming. Thanks to all the people. Smodge420Q on Twitch. I don't know if you stuck with us, but thanks for being here. Kimberly, Jim, Casey, Mike, Tom. I feel like I missed
Kathy,
Myra,
Pam,
Quinn. Thanks. We see you when you make a comment. It's the cameras don't work both ways, no matter what your QAnon friends are telling you. We can't see you. You can see us. We can see you. They make me say that. All right, we done?
We're done.
You know, also can't see people that only listen on the podcast. So to all of you, Mike, listening on the podcast, thanks for listening. Joe, keep listening, buddy. And if you listened all the way in this hour and 20 minutes that we've been going, well, it's even more impressive. How long has it been, Rob? Hour and 18 minutes. All right, we'll just hold on for another minute just to get to an even hour 20. No, we won't. We'll go. Okay, bye.